Recording in progress.
Hello, sir. Can you see, hear, and understand me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, sir. Would you please state your name and DOC number for the record?
Shane Ross, 174091.
All right, Mr. Ross. My name is Mrs. Fields, and I'm joined on camera today by my colleagues, Miss Lathan and Mr. James. We are the three-person parole board panel that is responsible for conducting your parole eligibility hearing today. Do you have any questions about that? I believe you have had a parole eligibility hearing prior, correct? About 24 months ago?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Do you have any questions about how the process works?
No, ma'am.
Sir, throughout this process, if you cannot understand or need us to rephrase something, please feel free to ask us. Just get our attention in some manner, and we will be glad to do that.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, throughout this hearing, you may notice that we're not always focusing directly on you. We may be looking to the left, to the right, down. We've got multiple notes on you. We've got a couple computer screens that we got information on. We know a lot about you. We know a lot about the crime that you've committed. So therefore, we want to assure that you get the best possible parole eligibility hearing today, and that we ask all the pertinent questions. And if we don't ask something that you feel is relevant, that you have an opportunity to address that at the end of the hearing. And you can, bring that forward if you feel that it was very pertinent to the decision that we make. Sir, I will start today's hearing by reading your resident record card. As a parole board, we cannot make any changes to that. You would need to refer to your case manager there at the institution if that information is incorrect, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, sir. So we'll start by reading your resident record card. I have Shane A. Ross, DOC number 174091. I have that you are 39 years of age. You're being housed there at Luther Luckett Correctional Center. You are medium custody. You are serving, your parole eligibility date is March of 2025. You are serving a 10-year sentence for the following charges: kidnapping adult, strangulation first degree, and installing an eavesdropping device, and eavesdropping. You have served approximately 3 years, 10 months, and 6 days, and you have approximately 1 year and 18 days remaining. I do not show that you have any good time loss or that you have any holds or detainers. Does that information sound correct, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, sir. We're going to start today's hearing. All of these charges are under the same indictment number, BACA 21 CR 63 out of Mason County. Sir, I want you to tell me in your words exactly what happened for you to be charged with these 4 counts that I have read off.
Well, it started with I met my victim, which is Chrissy. I met her at parole when I got out the last time. We got together. We had a miscarriage between the thing. She ended up becoming pregnant again. During that relationship, I started distancing myself in that relationship. So it caused her to want to go seek, somebody to be with, somebody to comfort her. And I wasn't there to be able to do that. So while she was cheating, I didn't, I argued with her. I blamed her for doing it. And then we got to a point that night that she got a text on her phone. I got upset because she wouldn't show me the phone. We got in an argument. She asked to leave. I told her no. And she's like, well, I'm just gonna go to bed. And she's like, I wouldn't let her go to bed. I was like, nah, you're gonna talk to me. Why you want to be with me if you're just gonna keep on talking to other people? She's like, he texted me. And I was just in my head, in my feelings, trying to excuse the way I was, not giving her attention. And she was like, you just need to leave, blah, blah, blah. And I grabbed the phone and I told her, no, just go ahead and go to bed. She wanted her phone. I told her no. She ended up leaving. When she went out the door, she's like, are you going to leave? And I was like, no. So she's like, call the police. Well, at that time, she ran to her car and I went to stop her and I grabbed her And she's like, let go of me. And I was like, no. Then somebody came out and intervened and was like, we're calling the police. And between like 5 minutes of arguing with her, I heard the sirens come. I took off, ran back to the house, grabbed her phone and my phone, and took off. They arrested me a couple of days later with the eavesdropping and installing eavesdropping devices. I had put a program in our phones. So we had smartphones, so I put them in there in case, like, most people can flash a phone by just taking off. Like if somebody steals a phone, they can just flash it and then you can't track it. So I had known of a program that would do it, but this program also allowed me to be able to remotely turn the phone on and be able to send texts to the phone and stuff like that. And I used it to spy on her during that relationship to let me see that she was also cheating or pursuing other relationships and stuff also.
Okay. So you didn't, it seems like that you didn't really want to have anything to do with, it's Christine Helpstein. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
But yet you didn't want her to pursue anything outside of you.
Yes,
even
ma'am.
though you didn't want to really have a relationship with her.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
wanted a relationship of convenience whenever you wanted it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So what led, well, I think we know what led, but you strangled her. It became very physical.
Yeah, in the house, when she wanted to leave, she went and grabbed the knife and told me to leave. I grabbed the knife from her hand. I grabbed her up by her throat, and I told her I wasn't leaving. And that's when she went into the next room and was like, well, I'm going to go to bed and this and that. And then everything occurred after that to where she ran out the house.
Okay. So she attempted to leave and you wouldn't let her leave. So that's where the kidnapping comes in, correct?
Yes, ma'am. They gave me the second strangulation when she was outside when I was preventing her from getting in her car. I had her by the collar of her shirt, and they said that where her collar had was going around the back of her neck, preventing her to leave was strangulation as well.
Okay. Somehow, though, before that, she managed to get her car keys and she hid them in her bra.
Yeah, she had her car keys the whole time. The car keys were in the thing. Yeah, she just went back in the room. She went into the room. She came out of the room, and I thought she was locking the door. And then she went back in the room. So I was like, well, we've argued many times. She's just gonna go in there and sleep it off. Well, then she opened up the door and she said, "Are you gonna leave?" And I was like, "No." And she was like, "Call the police." And at that time, my instinct was, "Oh, the police are coming." So I tried to stop her to calm her down, and it led to me sitting here today.
Okay. So she did leave and she ran and you called her. Is that correct?
I jumped off the porch while she was running off the porch. I jumped off the side of the porch and just cut her off. And then we met before she got to the car, because the way that our house was sitting was the car was parked on the side in the little side garage thing.
Okay.
And
were there neighbors witnessing any of this or
Yes, ma'am. There was two young fellas that was outside at the time smoking, and they had seen it and they intervened, hollering, "Stop this and that," calling the police. And she yelled, "Call the police." She's like, "All right, the police are on the way." And then within 5 minutes, I'd heard sirens. As soon as I heard sirens, I panicked and took off back to the house to grab my phone. And then I grabbed her phone because I was in my mind at the time. I was like, well, she don't need this, I knew that with the sirens coming, it was a downfall from there.
Okay. So you wanted to have control over her?
Yes, ma'am. I was, at the time, like, I didn't realize it then, but now I realized I was a narcissist, and, I'd had it addressed to me from her before, and I was like, I ain't no narcissist, but I realized that, I always wanted to be in control because most of my life being locked up, I was always an alpha. It was easier for me to control things in here than it was to control on the street. So getting back out there on the street, I wasn't ready to adjust at the time. So therefore, I just used what I knew, which was a form of control. And growing up and seeing it also between my parents was just, it's not no excuse of what I've seen. It's just, it was a way of living for me. And I didn't have the tools, or wasn't that I didn't have the tools. I wasn't, I'm trying to think of that word, receptive to wanting to learn those tools at the time.
So you grew up in a relationship, a family life that was not the greatest. And so you feel like that's where you learned some of the tendencies that you have today or had at this time?
I most definitely say that my my childhood played a lot of role in my life, even though as a man I'm supposed to know my own choices and grow up at the time. I just hadn't grown up at the time, and still today I'm not perfect and I'm not all the way grown. I make mistakes and I do things out of, just I mess up. So I'm nervous. I'm sorry.
I mean, you're 39 years old. You're a young man.
Yes, ma'am.
You still got a lot of life ahead of you.
Yes, ma'am.
But yet you have let crime consume so much of you, and it appears that your anger has a control over you.
Yes, ma'am. It did. It was the biggest thing for me to be able to realize, and boundaries has made me realize that I've taken MRTs over and over. Every time I've been incarcerated, I've been in MRT, MRT, MRT. I never really concept the meanings of the MRTs until I got into boundaries, and it might just be because I'm ready and I'm tired of this and I no longer want to be an alpha. I'm okay with being the beta. It's just, I feel like who I was 2 years ago in front of the board. Like when I came in front and sit in front of this board 2 years ago, my mind was like, oh, well, I did 2 years, so I'm ready to go. Like I realized today that I wasn't regretful for what I did. I still fought with why just me? Why did she get in trouble? Why did I lose everything?
Right.
And today I'm able to accept that, it was my actions that led that. If I gave her more attention, we could have worked that relationship out, or we could have separated ourselves with a peaceful agreement. I still have contact with her. We have a daughter in common. I get to talk to my daughter on a weekly basis here for the last few months. She schedules visits. I'm able to, it used to be when she talked and I wasn't able to hear, I didn't like something she said, I'd cut her off. Mm-hmm. Or if she didn't do something that I asked her to do, like simple, like saying, hey, will you send me some pictures? Yeah, I'll get them next week. And they're not there. I would inflict guilt or say something to make her, feel like she's less of a person. I don't do that now. I realize that, she chose to do what she wants to do because she has a reason behind it. That's her choice to make. And when, I put myself here and I got to deal with what I'm in control of today.
Sir, were you under the influence of anything at the time of this crime?
No, ma'am. I've never had a drug history problem. I drunk in my early days and stuff like that. Coming in and out of prison, I drunk on the street and then I'd come back to prison. But as far as institutional use for drugs or that, it ain't really been. It ain't been something that I enjoy doing.
I mean, because I appreciate you answering that. Just thinking strangulation, that's a pretty angry crime to attempt to strangle someone. It takes force, and you're lucky that you didn't kill her that day.
I am.
I mean, I believe that your anger was almost to that level. If you had, you could have actually taken her life.
And I've told a lot of people this, you know, like me being in here saved me from that. Because I feel like, you know, if I was not caught for doing that or arrested, or she just simply didn't press charges on me, it would have probably led to me a life sentence, because I had so much hate inside myself that I didn't know how to control it or identify myself. And you know, I'm thankful for being here and learning the tools that I've learned through this process.
Right. Okay, sir. You've had a history of EPOs with her, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And a history of EPOs. Had they all been? You had one with a Mary Eichler,
Yes,
but it
ma'am.
was withdrawn, and a Kristen Thompson. Who are
Yes, ma'am.
they?
They're also mothers to my children.
How many children do you have?
I have 7.
You have 7 children. By how
Yes, ma'am.
many women?
6.
By 6 women.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Like, I'd come in and out of prison. I didn't ever have no plans or responsibility. You know, my oldest son just turned 18. I haven't saw him since he was 6 years old. My daughter, she just turned 14. I just received a letter from her in the mail writing me, you know, about her boyfriends and stuff like that. So it was hard for me to, you know, write her back on that. But I'd sit down and wrote her a 5-page letter, you know, trying to explain to her about where I'm at in life today and the mess ups that I've done. She asked me things like, "Are you going to come here? Why didn't you been a part of my life?" And this and that. And the best way I was able to do that is just be honest with her. You know, I didn't want responsibilities. I was young. The only thing I knew was prison and incarceration. It was easier for me to cope in here than it was out there. So being out there was just giving me the ability to be able to roam till my next charge.
Okay.
Or until the next time I.
All right, sir. My colleagues may have additional questions related to the crime stories and the crimes that you're being seen for today. We're going to move on, talk about your criminal history. We've alluded to, I mean, you've had assault charges in the past. Were they domestic related, or what type? It was back in 04 in Fleming County. You had an assault charge.
Oh yeah, I had it again. It was against a guy. He came in and stole down my house, and I went to confront him about it down at the pool hall, and he got lippy with me, and I hit him, and then the cops showed up, arrested me.
Because it seems like that you resort to violence when you get angry.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that true?
I did. I had no more.
You don't believe that's you today?
I believe that I have the skills to be able to reflect from using violence. I'm not perfect. I may slip up. I'm not gonna say that if a hostile situation gets into it, I'm hoping that I can be like, okay, remember meditation, relax, walk away, time out, the things that I learned. Let's call my therapy. Let's do this. Let me call my parole officer and see what the advice for this is. It's cool off time. I'm hoping that I can apply those to me, you know, because I've really, you know, set out to want to be a different person.
Okay. You said you really never had a drug problem, but did you have some alcohol issues?
Yes, ma'am. In my early ages, I drank alcohol.
Okay, because you had an alcohol intoxication charge, and that was back in 06. The stalking charges, they were dismissed. I mean, what was that surrounding? I mean, I'm just curious.
It was with Kirsten Thompson. It was the mother. She just found out she was pregnant. She up and left me in Indiana. I moved to Indiana for her. She up and left. I woke up next morning, she was gone. I tracked her down to Kentucky. I came back to Kentucky. I was trying to talk to her. She was freaked out because her mom wanted her to have an abortion and this and that. So she wanted to go through what her mom wanted her to have. And she wasn't sure if she wanted to keep the baby or not. And I was outside the house. I was like, just come out and talk to me. Come out and talk to me. And she didn't want to talk to me, so I just kept on. She called the cops. Cops told me to leave. I came back. Cops came and ran me off again. I came back the third time. They charged me with stalking.
Okay. And then you've had some theft issues. What were they related to? Just in general, you receiving stolen property, and then you had a burglary charge.
Be honest, I got out of jail in Ohio. I was 18. I got arrested. I was staying with this woman, and I was 17 at the time. But when I turned 18, she had gave me the ultimatum was either, hey, you got to start. See how I'm gonna say this. She wanted to pursue a relationship with me, or for me to get out. Well, I left. Well, I came back the next day thinking everything was cool over and stuff. She got mad that I entered her house without a permission. So she called the police on me. I went to jail for burglary. They released me. They dropped the charges. They released me. I was stuck in Brown County, and I met a group of people, and I was trying to get back to where I lived, which was Maysville at the time. And I ended up stealing a car and drove it to Kentucky. And in the midst of that, I pulled up at a church, at a homeless shelter. It was a church, and they tracked me to the homeless shelter and charged me with receiving in Kentucky and unauthorized in Ohio.
Okay. So what have you learned from all this criminal activity?
Honestly, I've learned to, just be more open-minded, to try to rethink things before I do it. I've always had the impulse to just do. Like, I just slipped up here recently. I caught a write-up in December. I caught a write-up for, it's a forgery charge. I wrote a memo trying to make it light for Christmas, just making a joke, and I didn't realize the extent that it would have on the institution. And even though I thought it was funny and the other inmates thought it was funny, it wasn't. I didn't take in consideration of what it could have caused the institution at the time. Even though after discussion with the warden and the assistant wardens and stuff about that, they knew that I was joking, but they wanted me to realize what the worst outcome of it could be. So with that, I ended up losing my visit with my daughter and had to explain to her why it was more important for me to make a memo than to get our first visit with her. I lost my honor status over it, but not to deflect from what you asked me. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of being in and out. I want to be a different person, not just for myself, but for my kids. I've gotten to build a relationship with two of them since I've been in here, and just being able to do that, the way that my youngest daughter admires me and the things, she helps me reflect. Are you going to be mean to mommy when you get out? Because I had to break news to her. Like, it was that I was just telling her, hey, I'm in timeout.
Right.
And
sir, you got caught that write-up and you knew that you were going to be coming before the board.
Yes, ma'am.
Why would you do something so silly?
Well, what I've realized is I use humor as a way to reflect instead of anger. And I'm just trying to adapt to be able to use that in a functioning way instead of in a violent way. And I got caught up in the moment. I was careless, I guess, where I joke a lot and, try to make people laugh, because it helps me. When I make other people laugh, it helps me, just a little bit it eases the mood around us. Like, we're locked up 24 hours a day, family issues and stuff like that. And if I can make somebody laugh, I feel like, I'm giving back to, a little bit of the hurt that I've caused, and it's helping, and, it just, there's no excuse for my actions. I know that. I know I made a big mistake for doing that. And as, Chaplain Casey's like, he's like, you self-sabotage yourself, and.
So you caught this write-up for the forgery. Then you had, back in 23, you had caught a write-up for obtaining money, goods, privileges, services with false pretense.
That was that tablet issue.
Okay. Tell me what happened. Was it something to do with transfer of money around?
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead and tell me what happened.
A buddy of mine, he said, you want some money on your account? I was like, well, I got $100 on there. He's like, nah. He said, you want some money on your account? And I thought he was joking. He said, let me see your tab. So I gave him the tablet, but he put the other 100 on there. And I was like, is that all you can put on there? And the 100 went to 500.
Yeah.
I downloaded music.
Okay. You knew that was wrong, didn't you?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. And there again, you know, you had been given a 24-month deferral. You knew you was going to be coming back before the board before too awful long.
Yes, ma'am. That was right before the board last time. I addressed.
Okay. All right, sir. Yeah, it would have been. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that out. Yeah. Sir, you have completed some programming. Tell me which program has been the most beneficial to you and how you plan on adapting that to society if you're given the privilege of parole.
Boundaries has been, it's been the most to me. It's awoken me in ways that I haven't seen, like as far as dealing with relationships and dealing with boundaries between a relationship. Like when I first went into boundaries, my merely instinct was, oh, well, this will look good for the parole board. You know, people were saying, oh, you're guaranteed to make parole if you do boundaries. And then there were people saying, oh, no, you won't. You don't get credit or nothing. Well, I went in the way Chaplain Casey started breaking down and actually having discussions, because most of these MRTs, you don't really, it's the same old thing over and over and over and over. And like anger management in the MRT book, I learned to suppress it. And boundaries, I learned that I don't have to suppress the anger. I have to find a way to actually cope with it. Speaking about it and dealing with it is the best way, but doing it in a positive way is what's going to make you. I'm just nervous. I'm sorry.
Understand. So you believe boundaries has been the most beneficial to you? Even you have taken MRT more than once, I think you alluded to.
Yes, and I've done 7 MRTs since I've been. When I came up in front of the Pro Board last 2 years ago, I had 2 programs in. The Pro, there was no recommendations, and the Pro said, hey, what are you eligible to take? And I said, well, I think right now I could take parenting and untangling. They said, well, get them 2 in before you see us. I did parenting, untangling, then I ended up doing trauma. I actually did trauma twice.
I think that would have been beneficial to you. Tell me, was it?
Trauma?
Yeah.
It allowed me to get to like key factors of what triggers me. Okay. Like it allowed me to identify that my childhood played a lot of role in my thing. Watching my mother be really domestic with my father was really let me see that a lot of things cured, because I would never blame my mom. You know what I'm saying? Like I never blamed her. I was like, oh, my mom was a good mom. And there would be people like, your mom was not a good mother. You know, and to me, that was my mama, you know, but as I got through it, because the first time I went through, I got upset in the class. I was like, oh man, I said, because Miss O'Basic did it the first time. And she was one of the ones that actually wanted you to, like, if she didn't like what you had to say, she'd have you redo it. And there was a couple of times she was like, oh, I think you're blowing smoke up me, so I want you to redo it. And I come back and it was the same thing. I was like, this is what I feel. She's like, I still think you're blowing smoke. And I was like, so I come up through here and I'm sitting here trying to think about what do I need to say. So when I come to it, and then the third time she came up to it, and I was like, oh yeah, I just can't do this class. It's not going to work. So I skipped the class and they kicked me out of the class. So then I re-signed up for trauma again. And I got Miss Drew, and Miss Drew was a lot more than Miss O'Do Basic, so she did the extra. And she had us, you know, not only what we wrote, like we wrote something, she'd have us, you know, just, hey, go ahead and fold that up, close your book now, give me your book, and then tell us what's on that paper. To know what's on that paper if you wrote it, and she'd give us like a little assignment afterwards, like, now tell us what you could do different in that situation. Even though the book didn't require it, she would give us, she's like, you don't have to do this, but it would be good for the class. So it allowed me to be able to spot the triggers that was hitting me before they hit me. You know, like when I get upset, not to result to hitting stuff or breaking stuff or being verbal or being aggressive tone.
Okay.
But with boundaries, we did a who am I letter. And the first who am I letter is focused on who you are as a person.
Right.
And in that letter, you know, I ended up writing the letter twice because Chap wasn't okay with the letter that I wrote the first time. So he had me and several of the other members rewrite our letters.
Mm-hmm.
So I rewrote my letter again the second time. You know, I wrote on there like the person I was, that I was a POS. I was, you know, I was garbage. I wasn't a father. That if I cared about my kids, I'd have stayed out there. I would have thought about how I treated these women that I've been with instead of treating them the way I did, you know. And the biggest thing that made me realize is my daughters are going to see how I treat these women.
Definitely. You wouldn't want someone treating your daughters like that, would you?
No, ma'am.
Like you've treated your victims?
Yes, ma'am.
Your, you know, victims of your EPOs and all that. Do you currently have any active EPOs? Is there an active EPO between you and Kristen?
No, ma'am. It was dismissed 23 and 20.
Okay. All right, sir. So do you believe that your mental health is stemming any of this? Do you have mental health issues?
I have anxiety and, you know, the antisocial and stuff like that, which is something I'm gonna follow up when I get out with. And I had just started therapy right before I got locked up, but I'd only been in it, I think 2 or 3 weeks before I got locked up, so I didn't even get a chance to even, you know. But when I get released, I have a job waiting for me. I'm in a rural area, so I'm not around a bunch of people, which, you know, I feel like being out there and having the therapist and getting on some kind of medication, if need be, will get me, you know, will help me function a little bit better in society. Because I ain't gonna lie, it's gonna be hard for me to adapt to society because I've never actually really tried to adapt to society. I've always went in with the mindset, well, here I am, whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
You know, and like I can serve out October, November of this year. And main reason I want parole is like, I'm not saying that I can't do it by myself, because I want to be able to do it by myself, but I feel like parole will give me that little bit of leash to say, hey, you have somebody to talk to. Right. Hey, have somewhere to turn to. If you're feeling overwhelmed, here's what you need to do. Instead of just letting me straight out in October and saying, hey, hit the wall, you get upset, you deal with it your way. Because I'm not going to be focused, I don't think. I go out with the mindset, hey, I'm going to get in this and get that. Got the plan. I submitted to parole. Parole officers, they're going to encourage me. You know, okay. And
so you're looking for someone to be accountable to and have some guidance.
I feel that I need that. Yes.
Okay. All right, sir. Where would you parole to? Would you go back to Mason County?
Tollsboro. I'm not sure if I will be going. I'd be at the Mason County district because my brother, he lives on the Mason County, Lewis County line. Right. And I think Lewis County actually goes to Maysville now.
Okay. But where would you live? What kind of job would you have? You said you had employment or a job. Where would you live? Tell me what life would be for you.
Well, my brother, he's got 4 kids. He owns his house. He works every day. He works at Ryan Supply. It's a farm equipment thing for the FCA or FDA or something like that. It's in Tollsboro, it's locally. He had an old formal boss that he had worked for, which is ACL Construction. His name's Alan Lutz. He had got me a job waiting with him, working construction at $9 an hour. So it ain't much, but it's better than what I'm making here. Make 60 cents a day.
Okay. All right, sir. I believe that you have answered all one question. I noticed that you have been out for medical for several different times or on occasions. Is there something going on medically?
I have a bad and at like GERD issues, and sometimes
Okay.
I'll be thinking I'm having a heart attack, so I freak out and I go
Yeah.
up there. My anxiety gets the best of me,
Okay.
and I go up there and they usually give me like a GI cocktail or something. But I've been trying to go to an outside doctor, but they keep on spinning me on that. So because I was
So it
supposed to.
goes back to your anxiety and your mental health, your physical issues. Okay. Sir, convince me that you've got your anger issues under control.
I feel like there's nothing I can really say that can make you believe that I do. I
Yeah.
know that I know that I've learned something from these programs,
You
and
got the tools to deal with it, correct?
I have the tools to do it, and I got a reason. My
Okay.
kids are now a reason in my life, even though they wasn't a reason in the past. They are now, you know, and I just gotta. If I'm granted it today, I got to get out and show you all. I believe that I can make it. I made it off parole the last time, which was not like it's achievement because I came back, you know.
Yeah, you've
But
been given opportunities of parole probation and shock probation on various occasions, and you've come back to us.
I just think that I just need a real, like, you know, like if I do get out and I make parole, sitting down with the parole officer and really setting a guideline in with it.
All
And
right, sir. My colleagues will have questions for you. If you would please answer them like you have done mine, I would greatly appreciate it. Miss Lathan.
Good morning, sir.
good morning.
I don't have any questions or comments. You all have covered all the information. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. James.
I did not have any questions for Mr. Ross. You've been quite thorough.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Ross, this is your opportunity to tell us anything that we might not have covered that you wish us to know about you before we go off and deliberate.
Well, mine's running like 100 miles per hour right now. So
Oh, I'm sure it is. I'm sure you're nervous. It's all to be expected,
Yes.
you know?
I'm just really, I just really want to make something of myself. I've spent my time trying to grow, not just in these programs, but I don't know if you're familiar with the Dova app. We have this thing that's on our tablet, and
I've heard about it.
I devote hours in sociology, psychology.
Mhm.
I was taking a domestic violence course, but a third of the way in there, it froze and wouldn't let me get past the rest of the course.
Okay.
But I probably completed 14, 15 certificates in it.
Great.
You know, like I just don't take. I'm taking this time serious. I know that by some of the things that I've done may seem like, well, he messed up right before parole board. He ain't taking it serious. He don't want to go home. That's not the truth. I do want to go home and I do want to stay out. I've been an embarrassment to myself for so long that it's time for me to do something with my life, something productive.
Okay, sir. I appreciate it, and we're going to go off camera and talk, and we'll be back with you shortly, okay? Just remain there in the room.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
All right, we are back on record with Shane A. Ross, DOC number 174091. Mr. Ross, can you still see, hear, and understand me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Ross, after much discussion with my colleagues, we could have served you out, let you serve the remainder of your sentence, but it's our decision that we are going to grant you the privilege of parole. We believe that you can benefit from what you had asked for, the supervision and using your probation and parole officer to your benefit and the guidance that they can provide you. With this parole comes some stipulations. You're to have no contact with the victim or the victim's families while on parole without approval of your P&P officer. We understand that you do have a child with the victim, but you're going to have to discuss this with the probation and parole officer and get a plan. So that means, you just can't have contact direct out of the gate, okay?
Yes, ma'am. That's fine.
You must complete programs deemed necessary by the Division of Probation and Parole. If your probation and parole officer says they want you to do a program, it's like it's coming a directive from this board, okay? So we expect you to do it. We want you to seek a mental health evaluation or assessment in the community. Believe that can help you immensely, coming to grips with your mental health and then helping you get that under control with therapy or medication or whatever's needed. Okay, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, I would not recommend you going out and publicizing that you have been granted the privilege of parole. I would keep it under your hat. If they ask you, say, well, I got to serve out the rest of my time. I mean, you may have to fib, but it's to your benefit because you'll have a target on you.
I
And
understand
people
that.
want to see you fail.
Yes, ma'am.
All
Thank
right,
you.
sir.
Yes, ma'am. Thank
Do
you
you have
all.
any questions?
No, ma'am.
All right, this concludes our hearing. Thank you, sir.
Good luck, sir.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
luck,
you.
sir. We wish you well.
Thank you all.
Recording stopped.
I'll be out for a few weeks, so come talk to me or maybe be worried about this.
I got the home place. We need to, don't worry about the ID stuff.